Rangers fans, welcome to season 4 of Liberty Blue, the essential New York Rangers podcast powered by Believe Network and presented by FanDuel. I'm Andrew Chelney. That is Nick Zararis. Olympics are still here. We'll get into how the Rangers players are doing. Vincent Trocheck already taking pictures with, I guess, his future Wild teammates for reasons, and how star power is driving Olympics offense.
This is what hockey is supposed to look like. I know we've been watching crap for 4.5 months now of guys who look disinterested, guys who are at the Olympics who are playing like they actually care about hockey for the first time in the calendar year of 2026, which is nice to see. But this is what hockey is supposed to look like. We make the joke all the time once you get to like the conference final stage of the postseason that those teams play different sports from the rest of us. You know, we're going to have to go back to watching guys like Urho Vakanainen play hockey on a regular basis. We're going to go back to watching whatever the Frankenstein monster that is the Rangers bottom six attempt to play hockey the rest of this season. And that's, as you alluded to, Trocheck still here. We'll see how long that lasts after the Olympic break. We got about a week and change until the trade deadline when the players come back. They come back, I want to say the 26th or 7th, and the deadline is March 6th. So we don't have a lot of time here, and we'll get to that a little later on. But you're watching these games, and especially when you've watched Canada and you've watched the United States, to a lesser extent Sweden. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday about it. They've been very underwhelmed with the way Sweden's played. They've played basically as low event hockey as humanly possible, and it's effective in the earlier stages, you know, very similarly to what we say about the postseason, where you can get by in those 2-1, 3-2 coin flip games against lesser competition, but Sweden's going to play Canada or the United States, assuming they handle their business in the quarterfinals tomorrow. And that's really how you have to think about this, because when Canada and the United States are playing the way they are, where they're averaging 5-6 goals a game, Canada's averaging like 9 goals a game. When you're scoring to that degree, all of your other problems don't seem as serious. Yeah, Canada can't break the puck out as cleanly as they would like. Ditto the U.S. I think the U.S. has gotten off to some slow starts. I think they've been a little lackadaisical defensively at the start of games. And as they've gotten going, the talent gap has really shown through, and they've been able to pull away against the lesser opponents. But you watch these games and you're just kind of blown away with how good everyone is. When you're watching Canada and the U.S. in particular, there is no drop-off from line to line in the capacity of what they can do. They have the full arsenal at their disposal. You know, that's why all the conversation before the Olympics about, well, you can't play Caulfield on a fourth line, you can't play Robertson on a fourth, you can't play Mark Scheifele or Bedard on a fourth line. You can play anyone anywhere. Everyone is so good, it doesn't matter. Jack Hughes can play with Brock Nelson and Vincent Trocheck, and it looks great. You can play anyone anywhere. This is, and I said this before the Olympics like a month ago, this is literally the scope of your imagination. If you're John Cooper,
there's no salary cap.
If you're Mike Sullivan, you can do whatever you want. You saw John Cooper playing McKinnon with McDavid and Celebrini just because why not? You can do absolutely anything. You can have a hockey ultimate team caliber lineup in this event, and it'll work because they're better than everyone else. Please tell me why Celebrini can't play with McDavid and McKinnon. Please tell me why you can't roll, and you can't play the Eichels with, you can't play the Kachucks with Jack Eichel. I would like to Jack Eichels. That would help a lot, actually. But I have been blown away with the quality of play at the high end in this tournament. I mean, the Germany game earlier today was nice to see. Good, they're going through to at least one more round, but everywhere you look, there is just incredible hockey being played on the women's side too, for that matter. We'll get that game. We'll get that game on Thursday, where it looks like the U.S. is going to steamroll again the way they did in the group stage. But
there's just one goal the entire tournament. That's
this is
ludicrous.
It's 1980s Soviet Union level dominance from the American women right now. I mean, poor Marie-Philip Poulin playing on a broken leg, riding the golf cart up to the ice so she didn't have to walk, and still scoring 2 goals on what is probably a broken leg. The Olympics are what it's about, man. And we play for the Stanley Cup. It's the best trophy in sports. But the Olympics, it just has a little bit of something different in the air. You get the casual fan involved because all the athletes are on the daytime shows back here in the States, like Good Morning America and stuff, promoting the stuff they're doing, the brand deals they've got. Everybody, I think, has met Snoop Dogg other than you and I on the American Olympic team. But this is why we do this, man. This is as good a 2-3 week stretch of hockey as you're going to get as a fan, as a media person. And you got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy it while it lasts.
By the way, you mentioned Celebrini a second ago. He is so young that if he wanted to, he could have skipped the Olympics and would have played in the World Juniors. To which I would have, like, I honestly, I
kind of want to see it.
I say this tongue in cheek, like obviously you pick the Olympics over the World Juniors any day of the week, but it would have been really funny to watch Celebrini perform at the World Juniors, because if he's dominating the way that he is at the Olympics, for the love of the game, I would have loved to see him score 75 goals a game against these 18-year-old potential draftees.
That would actually probably be an OSHA violation. I don't know if you could do that. That would be a child labor violation.
Like, as a sicko, I would have loved to see that personally. But I mean, jokes aside, like this is awesome. Team USA is the women's team is doing something that we haven't seen. Like you said a second ago, the men's Soviet Union team was doing stuff like this 40, 50 years ago. And the Team USA, I think, was the combined score something like 35-1 or 36-1 or something completely video game. Like it's unimaginable, and yet here we are where they're I forget her first name, but Frankel, the goalie for Team USA, has 3 shutouts.
Yeah,
which is something that either hasn't been done before by a woman. Like the first,
it hasn't been done by a woman before. No,
hasn't been done by a woman. I think there's been like 2 or 3 other like male goaltenders that have done that in the history of the Olympics. Like this is something that is so insane, and yet the women are really, not only are they like, they manhandled Canada. Like it was 5-0. It was never close. I understand Poulin didn't play in that game, and I would imagine that she plays in the next one. But she, like you said, she probably has a broken leg. So how effective she will be and how much it will even matter is yet to be determined. Like that is how much of an advantage that these ladies have, and it's unbelievable. Like the talent on this team is like, it's almost like a dream team. Like this is the women's hockey equivalent of the dream team. Like this is insane to watch in real time, and you compare that to how Team USA men have played, and it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, they've been winning all these games, but not only has it not been nearly as gargantuan of a difference between the score lines, but like they're just not pulling away as much as you would like to against teams that aren't Canada. Like Canada is destroying teams 10-2, and they're just playing pickup at this point. Like they're skating around, and they are like, it looks like they are playing a different sport to everybody else that's out there. And for Team USA, that it hasn't felt like that. You haven't, and I understand, Canada has, McDavid and McKinn, and all these guys that Team USA does not have. I understand that makes that makes it harder to replicate. I get that. But you can understand why people like Nick and I have been pushing for Team USA to seek out as much offensive talent as you can get, which is why we've been so upset that Jason Robertson isn't on the team, why we've been so upset that Adam Fox didn't make the team. Like, these situations are why you need as much potency as you can in order to eke out every single scoring chance, scoring contribution, what have you, on the ice as you can. This is a best on best. Matt Rempe is not on the ice. Sam Carrick is not on the ice.
Tom Wilson is, though. Tom Wilson's getting people suspended by their own hockey federations. How good of an intimidator Tom Wilson is.
Yeah, well, it was mostly, I forget the player's name, but it was about the taunting afterwards.
Yeah.
That's what I really...
The French take player safety more seriously than the NHL is my takeaway from the last week.
That whole situation was really funny. But, like, you need as much scoring potency as you could possibly get. So, which is why Nick and I have just been so baffled for months now about these decisions to keep better offensive players at home because of #grit, #sandpaper. I don't know. And like, Hockey Stats does a really good job of tracking these things for the Olympics, especially because like they've been tracking scoring chance contributions. And Rangers have sent 3 players to the Olympics. Now, Mika Zibanejad is playing top line center for Sweden, so this changes a little bit. the context change, matters here. He has 10 chance contributions through 3 games. JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck both have 4, which, by the way, are the lowest amongst all forwards for Team USA. They have a couple of defensemen that have less, but that's not their job. The forwards are there to create offense. And the 2 Rangers that are there that people were questioning why they are there are at the bottom of the scoreboard when it comes to creating offense. Color me shocked.
So I think that's why they're there. When Bill Guerin was assembling the team, he looked at guys like that and said, we are going to need a defensive line that is going to eat pucks. And that is, my friend Alyssa says it a lot, you want to tread water when you're playing defense. When you're treading water, you're not drowning. But you can't tread water indefinitely. Eventually, your arms and legs are going to get too tired and your head's going to go under the water and you are going to drown. That's the peril of the tread water defensive approach. Because look, you are going to have shifts as you progress in this tournament, tomorrow in the quarterfinals, maybe definitely in the semis, and if you should get to the final, where you're going to be in your own end for 30 to 45 seconds, and you are going to be sitting on your hands, white knuckling your way through that shift because McDavid is out there with 2 other Hall of Fame caliber players with Makar running the point, and you're not getting the puck from them. You are simply not getting the puck away from them until it's a dead play. The puck goes out of the zone, the goalie makes a save, or the puck goes out of play. And that is the argument. I wouldn't do it. I agree with you. And I think one of the things that I've liked about the way they've used Jack Hughes is they've basically made him the engine for that 4th line where he's going to carry the puck in transition. He's going to facilitate a lot of the work. And obviously I know low competition. That line has done its job. My one real complaint, if you will, it's been a lot of grinded out hockey from their better players. And look, I know the Tkachuk brothers aren't that fast and that's their bread and butter. It's why they're effective. It's that they turn these games into cycle battles, and Eichel is such a strong puck carrier. He does a lot of the he does a lot of the facilitating because he can carry the puck into the zone with speed. He can create so well. He's got a good shot in his own right. The only real qualm you have for USA hockey is, can you get off to a fast start in your playoff games effectively, because that's what they are from now on, and can you find that extra gear? To your point, they haven't run up the score particularly high on anybody. They haven't really looked lights out until the game's already over. And look, this is very much a my lobster's too buttery and my steak is too fat situation where, they're only winning by 3 as opposed to 5 or 6. Unfortunately, when Canada is beating people by 8, these are things you have to keep in the back of your mind. And yeah, Canada's vulnerable. Their defense hasn't been particularly impressive. They haven't been breaking the puck out particularly well. You can definitely get advantages when you skill match against some of their lesser players down the bottom half of their lineup, but that's a team that, if they need to, Sidney Crosby can be the 3rd line center. And like, Dylan Larkin is good. He's not Sidney Crosby. Even Sidney Crosby at 38, what he is right now, I'm still probably taking him over Larkin. And yes, these are first world problems. We're arguing, can they win a gold or a silver? Well, this is it. And very similarly to the conversation we've been having about the Rangers for the last few weeks and season and a half at this point, the Olympics were set up for this contingent of USA hockey players in 22 and 26 to bring the best possible contingent of guys. Eichel, Matthews, the Tkachuks. This is the sweet spot of their primes. All of them will go in 2028 for sure. 2030 for sure. But they will not be in their physical primes anymore. And yeah, Canada's going to keep getting older, but Canada's got Celebrini. They got Bedard. I'm sure they'll have Gavin McKenna. They'll have Matthew Schaefer. And yeah, we'll bring Lane Hudson, but this is what we are set up for. The United States was put together with the mindset of 22 and 26 being our best chances of winning a gold medal. Now, you win the gold medal in this year, you're fine. You win the first gold medal in 46 years, you get some time to worry about what the next recycle looks like. And the last thing I want to say before I throw it back to you, we'll get there. You still got 2 more games to get to a final, and that's if you make the final. You still got to win 2 more games. You can't get caught looking ahead. You can't get caught scoreboard watching. play who's in front of you, and they've done a reasonable enough job. You just would like it to look a little more convincing, which is reasonable when Canada looks as good as they do. That's the big thing here. It's reasonable to be satisfied with what they've done so far, but also acknowledging if this is how they're going to play, it might not be enough to win the whole thing.
And, because I can already read the comments. The comments are going to be, well, JT Miller was brought here for defense, and he wasn't brought in for offense. And if you don't think that Jason Robertson is a really good defender, you either have never watched him play hockey or you are rage baiting in the comments. Like, Jason Robertson is one of the best two-way players in the sport. So the idea that he was left off the team because he cannot defend, like, there's some arguments, but he's not a penalty killer, but he's not this.
Anyone can be a penalty killer. Real quick, I need to say
anybody
this.
Can be. Second of all, Jason Robertson is really good. I would have 100% put him on the team above Miller, above Trocheck. He's better at both of those guys at both ends of the ice. What are we talking about here? And this might not be the end all be all. This might not be the difference. That changes the course of a game. Maybe it does. Maybe we'll never know, because Robertson could have provided more scoring. Maybe he could have, I don't know, stopped one more offensive chance, and that could have been the difference. We'll never know these things. But the reason why Nick and I are so adamant about this is because this is supposed to be, you bring your best guys. We are bringing our best guys to the court. Let's duke it out in a street match, pretty much. And you are leaving better talent on the bench and playing guys that you like, as opposed to this guy's clearly better, but no, we need this guy. This guy, we need Draymond Green minus a lot of the defensive metrics that he brings to the table. I guess, but when you lose, or if you're not, or if he's not, if Draymond is not providing the high caliber of offense that he brings on a consistent basis, to the court, you're missing out, because the guy that does provide the offensive contributions is on the bench because you left him there. That's, when you're looking at best on best, you are eking out every possible drop. You are looking for razor thin margins and how to improve at them in any way that you possibly can. So when you leave things on the cutting room floor that could have benefited you, they could very well, change the tide to a medal. Forget about, a period or a shift. A potential medal can be altered because you didn't have the talent necessary in that particular situation to get the job done.
They have KD. We got Jaden McDaniels. I'm not worried about it. We got Jaden McDaniels. I'm not worried about it.
What did John Morant say a few years ago? We're fine in the West.
Yeah, exactly.
How's that going?
Ultimately, these are razor thin margins, to your point. We are talking the 11th and 12th forward. There is no Jack Johnson on this team like 2010. There is no Brandon Dubinsky or Justin Abdelkader like the 2016 World Cup of Hockey. This is pretty good. This is about, you're 2 or 3 guys away from having as optimal a roster as you possibly can. And to your point in the larger conversation about star power, of the 10 guys with the most points at these Olympics, the player lowest overall pick with the most in the top 10, 12th overall. I bring that up because we've been talking a lot about what the Rangers do from here, because everybody keeps looking around and saying, well, if the help's not here right now, where is it coming from? And the retort you'll get is, well, the draft. They've got their pick. They've got the Carolina pick. They might be able to get another first-round pick for Trocheck. Okay, let's say you go into this summer with 3 first-round picks. Your pick will be the best one. The Rangers pick will be a lottery pick and has a good chance, if things stay the same and if they continue to trade guys away, of being as good as top 5, maybe even top 3. And then you're starting to get into the conversation of caliber of player. McDavid, who's tied for the lead in points in this tournament, first overall pick. Timo Meier, tied for the lead in points in this tournament, ninth overall. Macklin Celebrini, first overall. Crosby, first overall. Draisaitl, third overall. Stützle, third overall. Slavkovsky, first overall. Austin Matthews, first overall. First overall, Nathan McKinnon, and then the aforementioned Natchez, 12th overall. That's the bar. And people will say, well, it's the Olympics. Of course the best players are going to be the best. Are the best players not the best in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Did Connor McDavid not win a Conn Smythe on the team that lost the final? Did he not put up 41 points in 25 playoff games? That's the level of player we are talking about here that the Rangers need. Because you look at this team, and we've been banging this drum for a month now. JT Miller and Zibanejad are both 33. They're going to be 34 next year. You are talking about a team that is expecting to compete 2 years from now, oriented around guys in their late 30s, which means the help has to be coming from outside the organization. Okay, that means you have to suck again next year. That's the thing here. That means we are punting on next year already because the caliber of player we need is not going to be available to us with the Carolina pick or any pick we get for Trocheck. And as I cited last week, you basically can't trade into the top 10 anymore. That doesn't happen. I think my friend Ian had texted me. It hasn't happened since 2008 for a pick in the top 10. And then the Red Wings had traded a top 10 pick for Alex DeBrincat. So that was the last time a pick got traded out of the top 10. That's what we're talking about here. And the reason that's the cutoff point is that's the differentiation line. Do you have one of the guys? What do we always say about the Carolina Hurricanes and why we don't take them seriously when they play the Rangers in the playoffs? They can't beat us, and they're going to beat Florida. They're going to beat whoever comes out of the West, because as good as I think Aho is, and I think Aho is a really good player. He's a top 20 center in the NHL. The bar to win the Cup's a top 10 center in the NHL, and the Rangers don't have a top 20, maybe Zibanejad's top 20 center in the NHL. But you get what I'm saying here. We're talking about an otherworldly needed infusion of talent to make this team seriously competitive. And that's why I know I shouldn't spend as much time on the Rangers subreddit as I did, but I was traveling most of the day yesterday and was bored. Pretty much everybody over there is in the opinion that they're just outright lying about this being a retool. Otherwise, they're insane. Because there's no way. You look at the guys they have right now and where the help is coming from. Okay, even if you pick second or third overall and you throw Ehrhoff or McKenna into this, you're 2 or 3 years away from one of those guys being a serious impact player. And at that point, you got to start over because your most expensive players are 35. That's why I highlighted the leaders at the Olympics, because that's the cut line. And as much as, Timo Meier's not that good. Yeah, on the Devils, he's cooking for Switzerland. Yeah, Marty Natchez inconsistent. Well, he got away from the Carolina Corsies and he's cooking in Colorado. And he's been outstanding.
I feel like you
Olympics.
and I could cook in Colorado given the opportunity.
This is true. Yeah. I mean, they were playing guys like Logan O'Connor and Ross Colton in the top 9 when they were dealing with injuries last year. And those guys were putting up like 30, 40-point seasons. But that's the bar. It's not just, we got to get better. We got to get better. We got to get better than the best teams because we're trying to win the Stanley Cup. We're not trying to make a conference final. We're not trying to win a President's Trophy. We're trying to win a Stanley Cup. And you can't do that without one of these guys. And I was talking about this with one of my Devils fan friends yesterday. If I was a Devils fan, I would be outside the Prudential Center with a pitchfork and a torch trying to get Keefe and Tom Fitzgerald out of there at this point. Everybody who went to the Olympics from the Devils is playing so much better than they played for the Devils this year. Simon Nemeth has been lights out in this tournament. Meier, aforementioned, has been really good. Heischer has been really good. And then they're going to go back to New Jersey in 2 weeks and the Devils aren't in a playoff spot either. I would be stark raving mad because that team is good. That team has enough players to be good, whereas the Rangers suck. There's a difference. We can be mad because they suck. The Devils have talent and they suck. That's a different type of frustration.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. It goes back to some of the leadership. When one of your core players for the Rangers is Vincent Trocheck, and the discourse, especially the last couple of years, has been the leadership in the locker room and, what are these guys bringing to the table? Are they good enough leaders? What are they doing, etc. And when one of the pillars of the locker room leadership is jokingly taking pictures with his potential future teammates in Minnesota Wild, like that's been the rumor. Clearly, he's heard about it because he's out there taking pictures with the Minnesota Wild players. it just, I understand that it's it's a joke,
You
right?
can't take a
And
joke, man.
yeah, like I understand it's a joke. I understand, he's probably playing into a bit and he understands, everyone's linking him to Minnesota. He's not stupid. He hears what the rumors are. I'm sure people are telling him what the rumors are, right? I'm sure his friends are texting him, be like, oh, Sarah Valley or whomstever, insert reporter here is mentioning that Minnesota really likes you. Is that true? Like, are you going to Minnesota? I'm sure every player gets those kinds of texts from their friends. So I would have to wager that this was he was playing into a bit, this was a joke, whatever. But if you're Chris Drury, or if you're James Dolan, now, I don't know if James Dolan saw that or what he thinks about that. If you're Chris Drury, if you're the Rangers brass, if you're, a diehard fan of this team, and you see Vinny Trocheck doing that, whether it's a joke or not, it's not a good look. It's not. This is supposed to be one of the leaders of the Rangers organization on the ice and off the ice. And in the moment, he's joking that he's leaving the team. He's joking that, oh, guys, I'm already in Minnesota. Like, look at all my new teammates. Look at how much fun we're having. Wait a second. You haven't been traded yet. What are you doing? Like, yeah, I'm going to repeat this a ninth time because I know comments are going to be like, "Oh, well, it's a joke, buddy. Like, what are you doing? You can't take a joke. Well, what are you so serious about?" It's like I hear all the comments. I hear them. I understand that this is a bit, but from a Rangers perspective, if it's a joke or not, it still doesn't look good, and that is kind of a microcosm of what's been going on with the team the last few years. When, the all this talk about, leadership and no BS and all these things, that was a whole lot of PS, regardless of if it was a joke or not.
I'm glad they didn't have to bring no BS shirts to the Olympics to remind themselves they were there not to bullshit. I was concerned the American Olympic team would be bullshitting because they were wearing Ralph Lauren as opposed to no BS shirts. But to your point, we know this situation is a joke. I mean, look, everybody who leaves here very subtly is extremely passive aggressive. Think about what Calvin DeHaan said on the way out last year and him getting the happy birthday tweet from the team and him quote tweeting and said, "Oh, you guys remembered who I am?" You think about the situation. Trouba Trouba's a bozo for playing the circus music. He's not wrong. This
No.
team is a circus. It is a joke. I mean, this is the only team in the NHL that plays a guy 8 minutes a game, and the coach gets asked a question about him every single game because he gets to be on the team no matter what because he's 6'7" and fought a bunch of guys 2 years ago. This team is a joke. This team is a laughing stock, and the problem is they don't realize that. Or if they do, they just don't care. And you can say all you want. Well, they've been playing their entire lives. They're professional athletes. Of course they care. They do care.
Sure.
But they don't care enough to change the situation. I was talking with one of my Wild fan friends the other day, and they were talking about a couple of their prospects, and I was like, "You don't want Trocheck. He's better than what you have, but he's not going to be the difference between you guys beating Dallas or Colorado and not. He's a good complimentary player, but his shtick is very, very corny when you're losing. I don't hear a lot of people, for all the body language doctors who want to get on Lafreniere's ass for sagging his shoulders every single time there's a goals against. Does anybody have any smoke for Trocheck, who does the same exact thing but scored a couple goals 2 years ago in the playoffs? The disingenuousness of a lot of these arguments is tiresome. I don't particularly care. Do I care that he took a picture with him? No, not really. It's just a bad look. The entire organization for 2 straight years has been stepping on rakes. They've been sideshow Bob outside of the Simpson house for 2 years now, where, oh, we're going to get to Bart. Rake in the face. Oh, I'm going to kill him this time. Rake in the face. And it's been rakes to the face for 2 straight years now what do you mean you don't think you've been the worst player on this team? To Seattle. And, this guy's on our team now, 5-year contract. Do you hear yourselves? Do you see how you've been carrying yourselves, the way you've been acting? You traded like a top 5 franchise player in like every major statistical category and a salary dump last summer, and you did nothing to replace his offense, and you just shrugged when everybody asked, well, where are those 30 goals going to come from? They're going to need like 100 new goals next year. Once you take Panarin's contributions out, you get Trocheck's contributions out. And that's if they trade Trocheck, of course, because you'll hear people,
They will.
well, he could,
They will.
He could wait for the summer. He could get a better deal at the draft. Shut up. For the love of God, shut up. If I have to watch another 25 games of this crap, at least give me something to watch. Give me something to be invested in. Because once Trocheck and Miller go back to the States, JT Miller's going on the Phantom IR, 100%. He's been dealing with 3 nagging injuries all season. And I think it was Friedman who had reported.
Why he didn't go on IR in November is a question that will never be answered. But
Friedman had reported before the Olympics that he had heard there were like 4 or 5 guys who were hanging on by a thread who just wanted to get through the Olympics. And then once they went back, we're going to shut it down. Wouldn't be surprised if JT Miller shut it down after the Olympics. Wouldn't be shocked if Trocheck shuts it down for a week and they hold him out of play until the trade deadline happens, whether or not. And then you got to think, you still got another 25 games of this crap. You know, it's one thing to say, well, they'll give guys opportunities. They healthy scratched Brennan Othman and Scott Morrow before the break to play Anton Blythe, who's like 31 and has 5 career NHL games. Nothing about the team makes sense. Not a single thing about anything they've done makes sense. It has purely been reactionary nonsense, and it's why the Olympics are so frustrating, because JT Miller's trying a little bit, and it's noticeable the difference he's in the effort he's getting for the U.S. versus the effort the Rangers get. And look, that's not a very high bar. The freeze frames of Miller this year have not been very kind. You know, I know you're old enough. You remember all the memes about Ovechkin on the back check where it would just be gliding into the zone like his controller disconnected from the PlayStation. That's basically what JT Miller's done for a full season and a half for the Rangers now. And it just doesn't matter because he got to be on the Olympic team. So he's happy now. So he's going to give an effort. He's the ultimate conduit. He will do whatever's going on around him. He won't change the situation himself. But if the situation around him's good, he'll put on a smile, he'll crack jokes, and he won't say, I don't know. Yeah. JT, are you going to take the number 10 once Panarin's gone? I don't know. It's a tough decision. I'll think about it. Do you have a message for the team? I don't know. I mean, I don't watch Steve Dangle all that often, but the Rangers, they had a Rangers segment on their last episode. And Steve Dangle gave a better PR answer than JT Miller did. Yeah, I'm going to go to the Olympics. I'm going to try and bring some of what that energy was back to the team after the Olympic break, and I'm going to try and lead the way here because we've had a tough season. Is it that hard to put? Is it? You have been coached nonstop about public relations for 12 years now. You're 32 years old. You don't get to do the, well, he's inexperienced with talk. Put in a modicum of effort. Show a little respect for the people in the locker room who are asking questions. Don't just shrug your shoulders and curse to show how much you care. Anybody can do that. You're the captain of the New York Rangers. This is a $4 billion organization, and your answer is, I don't know? Come on, man. Give me a break. Seriously. Utter nonsense. Just outright nonsense from everybody. They won't let Liam Greentree talk to The Athletic.
Yeah.
It's one thing if it's Glenn Campbell, who I know, depending on where you fall on the spectrum, have different feelings about him. It's not unreasonable to ask for availability to answer questions because a team rep is going to sit there on the call with them, and the team rep will say, no, don't answer that. No, you can't ask that. If we can't even do the arranged marriage interview anymore because we're so paranoid about what people are going to say, that's a really bad look for everybody involved. Everybody involved looks stupid for this.
And you think that's not going to leak into the public sphere? Like, everyone knows that you are not letting him talk. So it makes you look even worse than what would have been probably a pretty positive article about his, Liam Greentree's future and what he's looking forward to with the Rangers organization. It would have been, by all intents and purposes, a positive article about him. Like,
the Athletic was not coming in there to skewer Liam Greentree.
Yeah,
let's be serious here.
No one is trying to butcher the guy in this situation. Like, we talked about the trade being middling for the Rangers and all these things. That's a Rangers problem. Liam Greentree, hopefully, is going to be a star in this league. That's what the Rangers are hoping because they traded away their best player to acquire him. The expectation is that Liam Greentree is going to be a good player. And the Athletic and slash, the Hockey News slash whomstever isn't going to go to Liam Greentree and be like, these are all your faults. Thoughts? Like, no one is doing that. The idea of these articles was, hey, the Kings traded you the Rangers. The Rangers traded Artemi Panarin to get you. How does that make you feel? What do you think about this? What do you want to show the Rangers organization, the fans, right? Just like this was going to be, essentially a puff piece about Liam Greentree. And for the Rangers to be like, no. We're not letting you talk to him because we're really afraid of what people are going to say. You doing that is a whole lot worse than anything the Athletic or Glenn Campbell could have written, I should say. Like it's a microcosm of the decision making from the brass the past few years, and it's disappointing. Like there's really no reason to do that, and if there is a reason, I would love to hear about it. You can't just say no inconspicuously with this being the only organization to do things like that without giving a reason. If you are going to reject people from talking to your new prospect, you have to provide a reason as to why. You can't just say no and be like, well, later, I'm not, I don't have to account, like I don't have to answer for anything. I'm just gonna leave it at B. Leave it there, and you can speculate as much as you want because we're the best organization in the world, and everything that we do doesn't need a reason. When you are walking on thin ice as it is, stuff like this only makes it worse. Stuff like this only aggravates people's issues with you even more. These are the little things that really add up, especially in this era of Rangers hockey where nothing is going right. All the, so a lot of these prospects haven't panned out. The Rangers at the bottom of the barrel in the Eastern Conference, where a lot of people are angry at Chris Drury, angry at the Rangers, angry at the Rangers players. A lot of people, especially season ticket holders, are angry at this team. Not letting people talk to Liam Greentree might not be the number one reason why people are mad at you right now. But when these issues are all compiled together, that's another reason on the list that you didn't have to make the list longer. You didn't. It's overall a very silly thing to do, and you instead of shortening the list of reasons why people are angry at you, you're making it longer, and it just doesn't make any sense.
And I always hear from people, and look, we're media people, so our opinion's obviously going to be a little more pro-media, for lack of a better word. We're both media people, so we understand the value of access, the importance. Your goal as a business trying to sell a good is to make yourself look good. Your goal here, if you're the Rangers, is sell a vision so people keep coming to your games the rest of this year instead. Because what's the sell right now to give the Rangers $100, let's say, for a ticket right now? Who are you going to see? Gabe Perreault? Okay. Is Morrow going to play? Is Othman going to play? Is JT Miller going to try tonight? Are we going to give up a goal in the first 3 minutes of the game? Is Shesterkin coming back? Is Fox coming back? The sell here is as brutal as it gets. I think a lot about the differences because I was so in the weeds in 2018. I was going to a lot of games when the team was dog shit because the tickets were like $50 or $60, and it was the most access I've ever had. They're not going to hit $50 or $60 till April if they keep up the way they are. And look, ultimately, it only hurts the season ticket holders because they're the ones who are going to take 40, 30% on the dollar. And that's your primary constituency as a team. And it sucks that we as sports people have to talk so much about the business and the operations of stuff. But unfortunately, these are the dollars and cents of it all. As people who understand how sports franchises work, your primary constituency is your season ticket holders. It is the people who give you that deposit up front at the start of the year and that lump sum payment of whatever it is per ticket, $120 per ticket per game, $180, $200, $300, $500, whatever it is. Those are the people you need to make the happiest the most. People like me on the secondary market, I understand. I'm not in your chain of commit. I'm not in your system of priorities. I'm going to get tickets one way or another. But what's the sell here for season ticket holders? We'll be back next year. That's the sell right now, is we're going to have a worse team on paper than we did last year when we picked top 5, and we're going to do better. That's the sell right now if you're a Rangers fan. And it sucks we have to keep doing this because nothing's changing. Nothing is changing until the GM gets fired, until there's somebody hired in the front office, until somebody leaks something or there's another scandal. Nothing's going to change, unfortunately. And we only have to sit here and speculate in the void because they can't even be bothered to give us nonsense answers. At least Drury, as much as I complained, he went out there and lied on Zoom for 15 minutes as opposed to just continuing to sit in the silence. That's better than nothing. You can't let Liam Greentree sit down for 15 minutes with The Athletic. You really think Peter Baugh was going to skewer your 20-year-old? You really think that was going to be the difference in how you were perceived? And that's what's crazy to me. Who are you trying to protect here other than yourselves? Because that's what it looks like. It looks like we are at ass-saving time for this general manager, and he doesn't want to risk anything making him look worse. Because, look, I know we've had a nice 2-3 week Olympic break, and maybe if the U.S. wins the gold medal, they'll bring Mike Sullivan around with the medal on his neck, Trocheck, Miller, etc. Or even if they have to win the silver medals, that'll be a thing. There'll be a ceremony, our Olympic medalist, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we still got to play another 24 regular season games, guys. Our season can't be tied to, well, the Olympic team was us because our general manager, coach, and 2 of our players were on it. Or if Zibanejad wins a medal with Sweden. That can't be what this season was about because this is the NHL. Unfortunately, as cool as it would be, that's not what this season was about. Our season was supposed to be about making progress, and instead, we've gotten even further back. Look, they saw how last year went, and the additions they made were Gavrikov, Taylor Radish, almost said Darren Radish, and that's it. Those were your improvements on last year's team. And the GM is going to look you straight in the face and tell you we're going to be better next year because we're going to pick a 19-year-old 3rd or 4th overall in June, and we're going to staple him into the lineup right away, which we won't because we don't do that because we're the Rangers. Or we're going to send him back to college, and he's not going to come and help us. It's Schrodinger's draft pick. He comes to the team, he's not going to get to play. He goes to college, he won't be able to help for 2 years. It's the Rangers are in as rock in a hard place as you can possibly be.
And it's just incredibly frustrating when it's one thing if you are like a Sharks fan where things are going to be really bad, but at least there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, you drafted Celebrini. Okay, now he's playing top line minutes. Okay, like now he's making mistakes, but at least you can see the progression in real time. And then you add guys like Misa and Smith and the other young core of guys around you, and now all of a sudden, okay, wait. You're waiving Jeff Skinner because he can't play because he thought he was joining a team that wasn't going to be as good as they are. But now the Sharks won't play him because he's not good enough to play on this team anymore because they're good, surprisingly. So if you're a fan of a team like that, where you understand, okay, you're going to be bad now, but there is some path towards going back to the levels of success that you had before. If you're a fan of the Rangers right now, you have maybe EJ Emery to look forward to. Maybe you have Liam Greentree to look forward to. But that's kind of it. Like, there is a big question mark as to what the path looks like for the Rangers. And the argument could be, oh, well, they just have to draft and all these things. But when you draft as questionably, I'll say that, as the Rangers have in recent years, when it comes, we have to relitigate these, the Anderson, the Kraftsofts, right? All these guys that you picked in the top 10 that ended up they're not even in the NHL anymore. And when you do stuff like that, the hope of building through the draft becomes a lot less enthusiastic because you've tried that. And with the same people that you are going to draft next year. And it hasn't really shown to be all that great. And there just isn't enough light at the end of the tunnel for fans and people, whether that be in the media or people, around the NHL, to view the Rangers as a team that has a path towards getting back to the conference finals anytime soon. Like they made they
Conference
made a
finals. This team's gonna be lucky to be a wild card team.
yes, I understand that. But they made the conference finals 2 years ago, and that, I guess, as of right now, is the pinnacle of what they have had since, making the final in 2014, right? Like they made the conference finals a few times, like that they want to get back there. They just want to get back to the conference finals. Like that would be getting back to the levels of success that they had just a couple of years ago. The path to that right now is as murky as you're going to get. And that is deflating a lot of the discourse from fans, from media, from other teams around the Rangers. There is no direct path, or there's no even we're going to bob and weave our way through this, but there is a way for us to do this. There really isn't for the Rangers right now. And that's a scary thought and a deflating thought if you're a fan of this team.
They got nothing to sell you on. No, you don't even get to watch Panarin's stat pad. I guess the vintage ad stat padding if you're particularly invested in that. But beyond that, there's nothing to sell you on here. I mean, is Mike Sullivan gonna break out magic? I mean, maybe. I mean, if you're that invested in like the coach being the turnaround, you're probably screwed anyway. Because like we know how little impact a coach has relative to the other sports, hockey coach that is. But I am just so at a loss, man. It is baffling they are this bad. Like talent-wise, it's not. I mean, they have good NHL defensemen on the whole roster, and they seriously expected to win with defense and goaltending. You can when you parse it out like that, and you just write the names down, and that's the big difference. You look at the way this Rangers team has approached this versus, and look, I know the Rangers don't have anyone as good as Draisaitl. Hell, they might not even have anybody as good as Slafkovsky. But you look at the difference at what one guy doing everything they can does for a team that isn't that talented, that isn't that deep, that has one or two good lines, and everyone else is just hanging on for dear life. Rangers don't have that. The Rangers don't have anybody who's capable of doing that. Maybe Adam Fox, but that's one guy. If the entire team hinges on whether forward. Yeah, and that's the other part of it too. Your two best players are a goalie and a defenseman, which makes it harder for them to win you the games by themselves. Sure, they help you win, but even as good as Adam Fox has been, and believe me, he's been their best player this year when he's been in the lineup, even with Fox and Shesterkin, this is a bubble team. With their two best players and Panarin, they're a bubble team. They weren't even in a playoff spot with those three guys. Yeah. And you expect to come back with no Panarin and next year, and even if you get no McKenna, that's another point. You're going to come out of the second half where you're going to have to run Zibanejad Miller as your first two centers. You probably are running Labo as the third line center. Whether or not Carrick stays, you probably get a fourth or a third for him. Maybe if you get lucky, you need a new fourth line center too. And look, the MASH unit is the way to go. Just trade everything that's not nailed down. Get as many assets as you can. Because as you alluded to earlier, with the checkered draft history, and in general, it's just good practice. You want to have as many of these guys as you possibly can because they are so volatile in whether or not they make it. But there's nothing to sell you on here. The second half, not even second half, the final 25 games are going to be as miserable as possible. And you will continue to get the non-answers. Maybe the GM will do an on-video press conference at some point where he'll show his face. Maybe Liam Greentree will even do a feature for the team. And that's the other thing. If you don't want him to talk to the media, fine. Sit him down with someone on your team on Zoom, get 3 clips, show his face, put together a video package, and let people know, oh, this is our guy. That's one of the real material differences between the way it went last time around and right now. Last time around, it felt like a calculation. Okay, we could probably make the playoffs this year, but we're not going to be that good. This year, the shit hit the fan, and then everybody looked around and said, oh, we're not making the playoffs this year. And they didn't make a concerted effort to gas up Greentree the way they tried to with Libor Hayek and Brett Howden. They represented their countries in the World Juniors. They were both so good at the World Juniors. These are guys who have excelled at the highest level of competition at every step of the way. They're coming from the Lightning. We know who are a good organization. I don't know what Liam Greentree's face looks like unless I Google him. The Rangers don't care what we think, and that's very clear. And look, that's a tenet of when these James Dolan teams fall apart. When the Knicks were god-awful in the early 2000s, they didn't care what the public thought. They didn't. They were more than happy to play Eddie Curry and Steve Francis and Stephon Marbury because they didn't care. They just wanted to have a team, and the public outcry only made them double down. The guy who would I remember. I think James Dolan sued somebody who yelled at him to sell the team in public, something to that effect. He doesn't care what we think. So if they don't care what we think, we shouldn't spend our money. It's that simple. Until they start showing us signs of, we are trying to make this better, you shouldn't spend money on this team. We have to watch because we have to do a show. I mean, we could pivot, we could do something else, but at this point, it'd be a tough sell for the subscriber base we have if we were to start doing Night of the Seven Kingdoms as a podcast. But that's one of my favorite, as a brief aside, that's one of my favorite podcast episodes of all time. The Game of Thrones finale aired on the Sunday, and then Mixtape came out on the Tuesday. And the first hour, they were talking about everything other than Game of Thrones. And everyone's like, you guys aren't going to talk about Game of Thrones? And then 90 minutes in, Troy just goes, oh man, that shit stunk. And then they talked about Game of Thrones for 2 hours. But that's what it feels like right now. There are better things to talk about. We could be talking about monetary policy in the South Pacific, and that's more interesting than watching Vincent Trocheck play hockey right now. God, this sucks. It's February and the season's over.
It was December, the season's over. It's tough. Nick and I want to have doing the show is
the show has never done better from a views and listens perspective than when they went to the conference finals in 2024. All we want to do is talk about the team being good. But if I come on the show and say Sam Carrick and Jonathan Quick are showing a lot of grit, that's 30 seconds of conversation because that's all we got. This becomes a short form video as opposed to a podcast. There's nothing good to talk about right now.
It's unfortunate. Nick and I have been, massive fans of this team our entire lives. And, I've been lucky enough to be credentialed and be in the locker room and talk to these guys. And, I want them to succeed. I want them to win. I want to be talking about, how they're primed to go on a run. And wait, could this be the year? This is all that we want to do. And the past, it's going to be 2 years, has been the complete opposite of that. And it's deflating, it's demoralizing, and it sucks. We want to be positive. We want to be talking about the good things that are happening. And yet there hasn't been anything close to that to bring us to that conversation since October pretty much of last season. Well, I'll say November because they went on that 10-1 early start and then everything fell apart. The past since that point in November of last season, it's just been a whole lot of this, and it's tough. We don't want to be negative. We don't want to be harping on the things that we keep harping on, but they haven't been fixed, and the hole only is getting dug deeper. No one is digging them out of this hole. They're only digging themselves. What's the joke? They're gonna dig through the China if they keep digging through the earth like this. Unironically, that might happen. It's demoralizing. It sucks, and we want to be positive. We want to be talking about a playoff run and who the Rangers can be buying at the deadline and, and all these things. And it's not happening. And I don't know when the next time it will happen.
They get a good return for Trocheck, if they don't eat the Charlie Strumel cheese and trade for another third line winger from the Wild, I'd be happy. If they can turn Carrick into a fourth, if they can turn, I don't know, if they can turn anyone into draft picks at this point, because other than Fox and Shesterkin, I'm pretty much good on everyone else. There's no one else on this team I'm particularly married to as far as being part of the
row if possible.
I mean, there's nobody I wouldn't trade. Yes, but at the same time, if there's a trade to be made for a better player, of course. Yeah, and that's the point here. They are in need of so much. And to get anything of substance, they're going to have to give up so much. And like, it's great. They're going to have like 30, 40 million in cap space this summer. All that means is they're going to give. All they're going to give, that means is they're going to give Alex Tuck the Adrian Kempe contract, and he's going to be a $13 million third-line winger 2 years from now. You know, that's the sell right now. And look, maybe there's soft tampering going on. I don't know who Brady Tkachuk, I forget who Brady Tkachuk was sitting next to the other day. It might have been JT Miller or something to that effect, or maybe Mike Sullivan. And, you know, like, that's how desperate we are. Is that we are begging for tampering. You know, when they traded for Pat Brisson's kid last year, okay, we could get Eichel because that's Brisson's agent. Brisson's agent's Jack Eichel. Right. You know, all the tampering aside, like, that's all we got. Is all we have right now, Andrew, is being Laker fans, is wishing good players onto our team. And look, I'm not as good as Photoshop as NBA Twitter is. I got to work on it. It's a real weakness. I can put anybody you want in a Rangers sweater on Photoshop or in the EA Sports video game. It's a whole lot easier to do that, or to be the Lakers, where every good player just magically ends up on your team at some point, than it is in hockey, where nobody good ever leaves. It's unheard of, you know, and we talked about it for 11 months. Last July, free agency next year is going to be crazy. Eichel and McDavid and Kaprizov and Marner. Okay, yeah. If you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. If you believe that, I don't know no star player goes anywhere in free agency. Every NHL team is too desperate to get one because there aren't enough of them. And that's what makes them valuable. It's not just that they are the best players in the world. It's that there are so few impact players in this league that when you get one, even if you're not that good, you do everything in your power to keep them. It's why the Rangers gave Panarin that big deal when they were rebuilding. It's why the Blue Jackets gave the late Johnny Gaudreau the contract they did when they were rebuilding. Anytime you can get a star in your door, you do whatever you can to keep them. And that's it. You figure out the rest later, because that's how hard it is to get one. Even if they pick third or fourth overall this year, okay, you still need to do something with that guy. It is not enough to just physically get him in the building and put your sweater on him, because unlike the finished products I just talked about, those guys need work. They need development. They need physical maturation. And we know the Rangers aren't very good at that.
Well, if it's any consolation, FanDuel has completely forgotten the Rangers exist when you look at playoff. I mean, we've talked about this weeks ago, like playoff odds and like implications and win over unders. Like, FanDuel has completely and utterly scrapped the Rangers from pretty much all of their books, which, you know, if you if you've listened this far, you understand where this team is. But I also think that betting books have like a different way of showcasing just how bad something is when they won't even let you bet on it because it's that far gone. It's been weeks. FanDuel is like, bro,
you would have to bet so much money to even win $100 on the Rangers to miss the playoffs right now. And the opposite is true. If the opposite were the case, you wanted to bet the Rangers to make the playoffs, FanDuel wouldn't let you. They would not take that bet because you would win too much money. That's how bad it is right now. Yeah. And look, you look at the Olympic odds. Canada's still the gold medal favorite. You need some of those guys. And look, I know McDavid hasn't won a cup yet. I know Celebrini hasn't won a cup yet. I'm not betting against either of those guys. I know McDavid's 29, plenty of time left in the tank. Celebrini's 19. He's got plenty of time. And look, I understand this takes time. And we can end on this note because we're already coming up on an hour. I understand this project takes time. You know, I talk about it all the time. The Lightning didn't win a cup till 12 years after they drafted Stamkos. The Avalanche, 8 years after they drafted McKinnon. And you go on and on and on. You think about what it takes. Barkov and Ekblad, you know, those 12, 13, 11, 12 years after the fact you draft those guys, you win a cup. Stamkos, it took forever. I understand we're probably talking 2030 until the Rangers are serious contenders again, unless they get a Brady Tkachuk or even a Jason Robertson. And even one of those guys in of themselves is not enough. That's the other thing. This team needs basically a whole first line. They need a whole first line of talent, because then if you play Miller and Zibanejad as your second line, that's fine. The Rangers need a whole first line of talent. They need 3 defensemen at least. That's a lot. That is a lot of talent to need to add to a group that is as bad as it gets in the NHL right now.
They're bottom of the barrel in the East, and it's not looking like it's going to get better anytime soon. And point blank, it sucks.
All right, that'll do it for this week's Liberty Blue. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or over on YouTube. We'll talk to you guys next Monday, where we'll have a gold medalist in hockey, and we'll unfortunately have to talk more about the regular season of the NHL. We'll see you guys then.
Later.